Mothra, Rodan, Ghidorah.
Oh my.
They're moving like a pack. They're hunting. They all respond directly to an alpha. We stop this Ghidorah, we stop them all.
Is there another creature that might stand a chance against him?
My God.
Hey everybody, welcome to you at the Watch This Podcast. I'm Alan.
Hi, Brian.
And I'm Devon.
And today we are going to be talking about Godzilla King of the Monsters, the third entry into the Warner Brothers monster universe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a film I had never seen before. But before we get into that, I have an announcement to make. On April 10th, 2 Saturdays from now, I will be attending Main Street Comic-Con in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. You can come see us, mostly me, because I'm the only one who's going to be there, at the con. We're going to have some special giveaways we're doing. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be an outdoor event, so even with in the age of COVID, they're able to do this con because it's outdoors. It's going to be a great time. I'm going to be speaking as part of their podcast and YouTubing panel. So that's going to be really fun. That's at 10 a.m. The event runs Friday evening and Saturday during the day. If you look in the chat, there is a link in our Twitch chat, and I will post that link into our Facebook chat as well, so everyone can click that. It's going to be a really cool event. A lot of cool vendors are going to be there. Some other podcasts will be there as well. Devon can't make it because he lives in Europe, and Ryan has to work. So, but it would just be me and possibly friend of the show, Chad. So,
I hope friend of the show Chad's there.
Mm-hmm. He better be.
Yeah.
I want friend of the show Chad to be there as me.
Yes.
I want him to be doing his best Devon impression the whole time.
And me.
Yeah.
And both of us at the same time.
He has to make his own eyes roll by everything he says.
Exactly.
It's gonna be a great day of cosplays, panels, different vendors selling stuff, music. Friends of the show, Dinosaurs in Paris, will be there performing.
Oh.
Devon, you might not know that band name, but they are the ones. Will Brandt, friend of the show, who did the music for our film back at Penn State. He's performing this. Actually, how we got into this whole thing. So
That's really cool.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. So click the link in the chat to learn more and RSVP. I believe it's a free event as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And on that note, we're going to move back into our main topic of conversation tonight. Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Now, this was Ryan's pick for this week.
Yes.
So, Ryan, I'm just going to give it to you and throw it away. Or take it away.
Take it away. Exactly.
Take it away.
Episode's done.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, so Godzilla King of Monsters came out in 2009. It was directed by Michael Dougherty? Dougherty? I'm not good with names. Anyway, he is known for Trick or Treat, Krampus, Devon.
Oh, I love Krampus.
Superman Returns, Alan, which you probably already knew.
I did know that, yeah.
Yeah, I there's, and then this, but so it's the third installment of the MonsterVerse, and it's bringing all of Godzilla's, like, the core, I'm going to assume what they're going to use as, like, the core monsters for the MonsterVerse on Godzilla's end of things anyway. And this is exactly what I wanted for these for the third MonsterVerse movie / second Godzilla movie. Everything from the monster design, the fights, it's pretty much the core reason for these movies, and even for the plot, which I know that a lot of people have had problems with, and I'd like to get into that with you guys if you have them too. So I enjoyed it. I think I saw this in theaters. I'm not sure. I bought the Blu-ray as soon as it came out. So, what did you guys think? And is this your first time seeing it?
This is my first time seeing it. So, Devon, you go first.
Okay, so this isn't my first time seeing it. I saw it in theaters opening night. I had Godzilla action figures growing up as a kid. I, in fact, had all of these Godzilla action figures growing up as a kid. I love Godzilla. I love all of his iterations. This movie, I mean, plot-wise, whatever, right? You go to a Godzilla movie to see giant fighting monsters. Holy shit, did I see giant fighting monsters. It ticked every box. They even had the Godzilla theme song in the credits. 10 out of 10, best movie.
Okay, so I just watched this for the first time yesterday. I did not see this in theaters. I feel like I would have benefited from watching it in theaters because watching it on a TV screen's not the greatest. But I enjoyed it. It has just as many plot issues as the one before it. This one has the benefit of not killing Bryan Cranston in the first act. So, I enjoyed it. It is a mess of a plot, but it's predictable. I think it does a good job of balancing the monsters versus the human aspect of it. I enjoyed it.
Good. I'm happy. I mean, it's,
that's it, everybody.
Yeah.
Got it.
So, let's see. So since we've got Godzilla vs Kong coming out tomorrow, and this movie did come out like 2 years ago, I'm just going to go over a brief description of what happens in this, which is extremely easy. Family that lost a kid in San Francisco gets torn apart. Mom goes nuts, involves herself with eco-terrorists to release all of the Titans to reclaim the Earth. Dad is hired by Monarch to stop her. Plot.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't get into spoilers for this because it's a Godzilla movie.
It doesn't, I mean,
I feel like Ryan just spoiled one of the major twists. So,
you can see it coming a mile away. So,
well,
I mean,
let's talk about that for a second because I didn't. Because this is what I thought. Once it was revealed that she was, I was like, okay, wait, was she doing this the whole time, or did she just start to agree with them after she was kidnapped? Because her daughter was there where everyone dies, and she doesn't care that her daughter was supposed to, like, if her daughter was in that room with all of those scientists who die at the Mothra thing, like, why did she bring her daughter? Like, if she knew this was happening, why was her daughter anywhere near that?
Maybe she figured that, like, they were going to go to some, like, secure bunker somewhere. She's like, well, daughter needs to come along, and we got to make it look convincing.
And the way that I see it, too, she has kind of a shocked look on her face when it happens. So even though she knows that they were going to be there, I don't think she expected them to, like, breach a solid door. Like, you know what I mean? Like, pop the door off its hinges. I don't think she was expecting that to happen.
Well, then that's just bad planning. Like, no, it bothers me. Like, I had no investment in that character beyond that point. Like, once it's like, okay, you're just evil. Like, you almost had your daughter killed, in a whole plot to get revenge for your son who died, which only took me out of her story. So when they try to redeem her at the end, I was like, I don't care. Like, no, like, bye. So yeah, that was like my main plot issue with this was just her story.
Which
the rest of it I liked.
Okay, which is great. And honestly, that's mainly the plot point that I hear from a lot of people, that they don't care about her because of how they set that whole thing up. They bring up different points than what you did, but that's a major one. It's like, okay, so she cares about her daughter. Why did she bring her to the lab if she knew they were going to be there? I've also heard one person say that they actually stopped watching the movie when that scientist died because they love the actor from Stranger Things who plays the science teacher, because he gets like shot in the face. At the start of it.
Him.
That was him, which that is his autograph picture that I have behind me. So for anybody who's, like I said, like, I like this movie. I like the fact that he's in it. It upset me that, his character died, but I'm happy that he's in it. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, so that was the main plot issue that you had with it.
Yeah.
Okay. The issue that, the biggest problem that I have with this movie, even though I love it, is there are parts where the editing jumps and I get a little confused occasionally. This is probably the one time I'll ever bring up an editing problem for a movie. Okay, for a prime example, at the start when they're in the kitchen and the daughter's walking back and forth, putting the plates down and everything, the camera jumps from her walking in front of the mom to a cut, like a hard cut, and then the camera is over her shoulder with the mom talking to her, and it's like she teleported 6 feet in like a second. And there's a few times this movie does that, where it's like the editing was just like, well, it doesn't matter, do the cut, it's a Godzilla movie, nobody's going to care. Like, I really feel like that happened a few times. But that's my biggest problem with it. And I know, Devon, you said you gave it a 10 out of 10. Like, Alan, gave his issue, I gave mine. Do you have one in this?
Oh, of course I do. I'm Devon.
Okay.
I have it.
We don't have all night.
Look, some of the jokes in this are just not good. There is that scene where the guy goes, "Oh my God." And the guy goes, "Zilla, stop it. Stop it right now. It's not clever. I hate it."
With some of the news that came out recently, Tom
Middleditch
just fell flat for me because he's kind of a dick if you read the news stories about him recently.
I've completely missed all of that.
And his character just wasn't funny to me to begin with. So even without that, I was like, yeah, you're just Thomas Middleditch. Like,
who is this again?
The guy who's not Ken Wannabe or the girl from Shape of Water.
He was the head of technology for Monarch.
The skinny guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the skinny guy. Yeah.
The one who's like, I'm going to play a video for the mating, and I believe this is the one that has the genitals blurred out. If it's not, you can speak to the whoever.
Yeah,
and he
I kind
runs
of
out
like
of the
that
room.
part.
Yeah.
Not funny.
I thought that was funny.
I thought that was hysterical.
I thought
So, what? I guess one thing I need to ask you guys before we get too far into this: what is your relationship with the other movies in this franchise? Because this is the third one.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Godzilla and Kong Skull Island?
Okay, so I own both. I own all three of these on Blu-ray, and regardless of how this one that's coming out is going to do, I'm going to own that on Blu-ray too. So I love Kong Skull Island. I love the fact that it's set in the 70s. It's set right after the Vietnam War. I love the plot of it. I like how they introduced Kong. I like the first Godzilla movie in this storyline. The effects are great. The storyline is okay. I'm not a big fan of the villain monster, the villain Titan in it.
Oh, really?
Well, I don't know much about Godzilla, but it feels like they saved all of the big ones for this movie.
They kind of did. There's a few that aren't in there, though, which goes into a few fan theories I have that we'll get into later about what's going to happen in this next one. But the Mutos, because this was Kristen's biggest problem with it, and I loved the first one. Like, Alan, I had the same the same thing happened to me that happened to you with Independence Day Resurgence, where like you saw it and you were like, this is great. And then you were like, I'm starting to see the problems.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's not that there were a ton of problems. It was just what Kristen said about the monster was that all of the other Godzilla monsters look like animals. They're either a combination of like a weird mutant one animal or a combination of two. The Mutos, it was like, we want it to be a spider with lizard skin and snake eyes. And it was just one of those things where it was like they couldn't focus on making it simple. And they just made like a weird shadow monster.
So in the chat, somebody brought up Kong Skull Island. It seemed like Kong was a secondary character and didn't matter. All that mattered was John C. Reilly's character wanting to get back to Chicago to watch a Cubs game. I think that's one of the biggest critiques of this franchise has been the balance between the monsters and the human characters. It's been a while since I've seen Kong Skull Island. I do remember John C. Reilly's character being like intriguing to me, like the whole idea of a World War II pilot stuck on this island, doesn't know that the war is over. I really enjoyed that storyline. I don't remember much about him wanting to just get back to Chicago, but how do you guys feel about the balance between the monsters and the humans in this one?
I feel like they got it right here. I think that if it was more monsters fighting, then it would have been too much. But I feel like it was definitely better than the first Godzilla, because in the first one of this trilogy, like if I remember right, they don't show you all of Godzilla, and you don't get that like iconic roar until like an hour and a half into the movie.
Yeah, it cuts away from the first battle to like the aftermath, and it's like, well, I want to see Godzilla fight. Like they saved it for the end.
Yeah.
But this one, they're just like, nope, here's Godzilla in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. Here, he's going to fight a big thing. Here it goes.
Yeah, and this gets into why, like, the Kong movie's good. I like it. I like the plot. The problem is that when you're setting up this type of universe, when it comes to Godzilla and Kong and all of the Titans, this is the balance you want. You don't. I mean, like, Kong is a good storyline. I really like the storyline. I would like it better if it was a standalone movie and didn't have to deal with Kong. It was some other thing. It was like some other monster of its own thing. Because the balance is too human oriented. The first Godzilla movie kind of suffered from the same thing, but the plot and storyline wasn't as good as Kong. So it was like, I get the storyline, it's kind of appealing. I want Godzilla. I want him to fight. Where is he? Okay, great. That's a foot. I saw a foot. That's awesome. That's his tail. Great. Okay, when do I get the whole package? And then the biggest letdown of that movie is when everybody's running down into the San Francisco subway and they show like the flying Muto like attack Godzilla's head, and then the doors close and they cut to back to the soldier again. And I was if I was holding my pen like I am now, then I would have thrown it.
I'm going to need filled in a little bit on Kong Skull Island. I've never seen it. Chat has me intrigued about it. I mean, maybe not that like John C. Reilly's hanging out the whole time. I don't know how much I care about that, but
it's not that.
So
bad.
To be fair, Jack Black burnt me out on Kong.
Let me sell you on Kong Skull Island with just the cast.
Okay.
John C. Reilly, Samuel L. Jackson,
What?
Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, and John Goodman.
John Goodman's in this movie and I haven't seen it?
Yeah.
What have I been doing?
I don't know, but I highly recommend you watch that before Kong.
I'm going to have to now.
Yeah. The thing, like, he makes two statements about it. Because they're having some conversation, and he's an ex-World War II pilot who's been stuck on this island since... And it's right after the Vietnam War. So from the end of World War II to the Vietnam War, he's been stuck on this thing. And he makes this thing about a good day is being at the ballpark with a beer and a hot dog watching the Cubs play. And, like, he says it once, and then he might make a reference to it again, and that's it. It's just, he's John C. Reilly.
Yeah.
I feel a kindred spirit in chat because I feel the same way about Wonder Woman bringing up her dead ex-boyfriend.
He says it once.
All right. Well, we've got
Whatever. Anyway,
we've got a
moving on.
question. We got a question in chat. In the Godzilla
Okay.
universe, is the Godzilla creature the original one from the 1950s, or were there multiple Godzillas? If one Godzilla creature dies that way, that were the result of atomic fallout. I think there are multiple, right? Because one is like son of Godzilla in the original series.
I don't know.
Okay, so from what I know, the original Godzilla movie, and then that run of movies that was done by that same like director writer, that's all one Godzilla. And then when a new director, new writer picked it up, it was a different iteration of it. So it was like a reboot of it. So one Godzilla really is not part of the other one, because there is a movie where Godzilla has a kid.
There is.
But that kid doesn't grow up to be like this Godzilla. Like, this is in a completely different universe as the Godzilla before it, and then that one's in a different universe than the one before that. If you want to, you can call it a Zilla-verse, a Zilla multiverse. And at one point, they're going to do a crossover, and they're all going to come together, and then you never know.
I think they did do that. I think there
What?
was a Godzilla crossover.
Listen, the big question I want is Godzuki in it? Because that's all I want in my Godzilla crossover. I'm happy somebody got that. Thank you, Ryan.
Give me a second here. I want to look this up, but I'm pretty sure
Okay.
there was a Godzilla crossover.
Okay.
So while you're looking it up and we're talking about multiple Godzillas, I had a question I really do want to know the answer to.
Okay.
How did you guys like his design, or how do you like his design in this set of Godzilla movies?
Well, just looking at the picture that we have on the screen here, he has like a Godzilla dad bod.
He's a chunky boy. I love it.
Godzilla's a chunk. Godzilla's chunky. He's a chunk. He's a fat cat. I think he's cute, so I love it. So there's a difference between I am a huge fan of the Brendan Fraser. Godzilla?
Matthew Broderick.
Matthew Broderick. I always get them crossed.
They're basically the same person. I get it.
They are. I'm a big fan of the 1997 Godzilla. Huge fan of it. I know it is not to canon whatsoever. It's its own thing. It's a horrible design for traditional Godzilla. I get it. I find it entertaining. I saw it when I was 12.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I like this Godzilla, this one that are in these movies, more than that one. Like, Alan loves the Batman movie with Val Kilmer?
The bad one?
What people usually say is the bad one.
Oh, gotcha.
So, this is my version of that. Liking the one from 1997. Godzilla's a giant iguana in that one. And so that's where the whole nuclear fallout thing happens. I like this idea where, Godzilla's been around forever. These are titans. These things are the first creatures on Earth, and they come up every so often to, fix things. And they kind of get into that in this movie by not telling you, but by showing you. And so, but before we get into, the set design of, Atlantis, I call it for lack of a better term, I wanted to cover two things with you that I traditionally ask you every time it's my turn. One, favorite line or whatever that you can think of right now. And I had a second question about a set that they used in this that I want to talk to you guys about. So, line? Scene? Which one made you laugh? What do you like the most?
So my favorite line from the first Godzilla is Ken Wannabe saying, "Let them fight." So after his character sacrifices himself, and you had Bradley Whitford on their giant helicarrier thing, being like, I always liked when he said, "Let them fight." Yeah, that was my favorite moment. I was like, that. Yep, that's me. Just put him in anything, and I'm good to go.
Okay.
I really like that. I mean, I think my favorite line was the scene just before they reawaken Godzilla by blowing him up. Where was it Watanabe was in front of him and was like he said something like goodbye friend or something, and I was like, yeah, that's awesome. I don't know. I just it wasn't funny. It wasn't like overly cool. I just love that plot point.
It shows how much he cares about Godzilla because like he spent his entire life looking after him and protecting him pretty much, and searching for him and finding him and then protecting him from the U.S. government pretty much. Yes.
Real quick, I found the movie that I was thinking of.
Excellent.
It's called Godzilla Final Wars. The '98 Godzilla appears in that. It came out in 2004.
98, not 97. I always get that.
Godzilla Final Wars. That's so weird.
I'm looking to see if it's on HBO Max because I'm like after I finished King of the Monsters, all of the Godzilla movies came up in the search. So
man,
that's
nice,
intriguing.
So my favorite line is my favorite line makes me laugh because I mentally add a line after it that nobody says in my head, and I can't help it. And it makes me laugh. So when they are in the lab at the start of the movie, so the whole sequence at the start of this movie with Mothra and like the terrorists coming in and that whole thing and like her in the kitchen, like I love the opening of this movie. So that's why I kind of refer to that a lot. But anyway, she tells the like, I guess the caretakers or the guards by the egg, she says, stand down, you're scaring her, when she pops out of the egg, when Mothra pops out. And she shouts that, and then they go to where the people are with their, like, laser tag guns, for lack of a better term, what those things were.
Yeah.
And I mentally hear in my head one of them saying, all muffled in their mask, what about her? She's scaring me. Like, so it always makes me laugh whenever she says that, and they cut to them. I can just hear them in my head, one of them saying that. Like, well, like, what about me? I'm scared. Tell her to stand down.
So
and then this, yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, the next thing was going to be one of the set sites that they picked for this movie. But what were you going to say? Something with the chat?
Yeah, something with the chat.
Yeah.
So Space Ranger Pin Nerd says, my favorite Godzilla is from the '60s, the film where the scene is they are standing around with the other monsters arguing about whether or not to save mankind.
Yeah.
Do you know which one that is? Like, if you can give us the title of that, I want to check this out. I need to watch more Godzilla films. I need to watch more Japanese films.
They are good. They are.
Yeah.
I think the last non-American Godzilla movie I watched was Godzilla 2000, which is leans very heavily into the sci-fi side of things, where the villain like takes the form of a UFO and just flies around for a little bit before the main fight. It's great. I love it.
That's pretty cool. I know my favorite used to be the Mecha Godzilla ones. Like anything he was in, I was like all about. Yeah.
So I want to talk about a set that they picked. And I can't help but think that this is like an alternate reality from like the Marvel universe. So the dad's home or cabin is Tony Stark's cabin from Endgame.
I freaking thought so.
It is.
Is it?
It is. It's the same interior. It's the same kitchen. That is Tony Stark's cabin from Endgame that they used in this. And I think, and if I remember, this came out in either April or December, and the other one came out in that other month. So it was one of those things where it was like either it was like somebody was friends with somebody working on both the sets, and somebody was like, hey, we've got this rented, do you want to use it? Because I think these films were kind of overlapped with filming.
Let me tell you how they found it.
Okay.
Airbnb.
Are you serious?
Is it an Airbnb?
It's an Airbnb.
What?
Okay.
For $800 a night, you can stay in the Stark cabin, and you get the lake, you get the whole experience.
Wow.
I'm surprised this came up naturally, but I was thinking like, as a celebration of the podcast, we could all like go for a night, like in Georgia, like all.
I would love that.
Yeah.
It's in Georgia?
It's in Georgia. It's outside of Atlanta.
Of course, it's in Georgia.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Man, that would be cool.
Okay.
It's booked up until like February though, because everyone wants to go and watch Endgame.
It's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
But we would go and watch King of the Monsters.
Yes, we would.
The better choice.
Okay, so did you guys have anything you looked up? Because I tried to find trivia for this real quickly. Because I mentioned to Alan before we started the show, I fought off a possible migraine this afternoon. So a lot of my note finding kind of got thrown out the window. Devon, did you look up anything trivia wise for this or try to find anything?
I didn't look up anything trivia wise, but I don't know how. I think the biggest thing that intrigues me is about this is the world. And I didn't know if you guys had anything, because you guys watched Kong Skull Island, that you could help me out with. Okay. Where, like, is the world just, like, going to be completely nothing, or, like, basically already destroyed in the next movie? And also, like, isn't King Kong really baby compared to Godzilla? Like, isn't he, like knee-high to Godzilla?
Okay, so this is something that Alan and I talked about at one point, I think off air a few months ago.
Yeah.
Kong in Kong Skull Island is a baby.
Oh, really?
He's not fully grown yet.
Mm-hmm.
Because I brought this up to Alan, and Alan was like, he's a kid. And I'm doing the whole jokes, like, oh, Godzilla's going to win. All he has to do is step on him, you know?
Right.
Like that whole thing. But Godzilla is a baby, pretty much. Like, he's a toddler in Kong Skull Island.
No, Kong is a toddler. You said Godzilla.
I meant Kong.
Yeah,
Kong's a toddler.
Kong Skull.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's a toddler in that. So he's a toddler in that. So there's that. Now, the movie also takes place at the end of the Vietnam War. These movies are taking place somewhat current time,
like kind of nowadays.
So I'm going to assume a growth spurt.
I mean, that makes sense. I just didn't know that King Kong got to be like taller than most cities. Like, I think that's an interesting take on Kong.
Yeah, because every Kong movie I've ever seen, he's just short enough to be... He's just small enough to have to climb up the Empire State Building.
Right. And in this one, he looks taller than the Empire State Building.
Oh, in Kong Skull Island, I think he's close to being as tall as the Empire State Building in that.
Did they shoehorn in a Kong falls in love with a woman thing in Skull Island?
Not really falls in love, more like finds a feral pet. Like,
interesting.
Okay, here. So here. You know how humans can get whenever they find like a kitten and they bring it inside and they take care of it and it turns part of the family?
Yeah.
Kong kind of does that with Brie Larson for a little bit. Okay. Where it's like he's not falling in love with her. It's just, oh, here's another thing that's nice to me. I'll be nice back. Like, that's all it is. It's not some weird romance creepy thing.
Got it. Because I think that's like one of the plot lines that I just like. I get that it's classic cinema. I just can't get behind it. Like, I don't love it, and I don't love the "'twas beauty that killed the beast" at the end of every King Kong movie, and I'm glad they just went away from that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen a classic King Kong movie. In the chat, they're saying their favorite is the Jeff Bridges, Jessica Lange one from I think that's the 70s. I haven't seen that.
No, I know that one.
All I've ever seen is the Simpsons parody where Homer is King Kong.
Of course.
Mr. Burns is the one who brings him back. I've never seen the Peter Jackson one the whole way through. It bored me.
It's a marathon, man. It's something.
Yeah, the normal, like, to be honest, this is something that's kind of a discussion that Kristen and I always have. I'm not a fan of monkeys in movies, period.
Really?
I'm not. The movie Dunstan Checks In is one of Kristen's like favorite movies as like a kid. And
okay.
If you grew up with it, you saw it as a kid. Watching it now, it's like watching a movie you liked when you were a kid. Like, it's still entertaining. It's still funny. I find parts of it funny, but like the only movie that I would say that is a movie that I like that revolves around a monkey, well, there's two, is Congo and Kong Skull Island.
Have you seen the new Planet of the Apes movies?
I hate those movies.
Do
I
you
absolutely hate
really?
them. You
No.
wanna know why? Because I
Tell
like
me.
the originals too much. I like the originals too much that I cannot stand the modern iteration of it.
Okay.
To your point, now that we're thinking about it, I think the only movie I've ever walked out of was, I think, Congo. I think I walked out of that movie. And I don't walk out of movies.
What part did you walk out of it?
I don't. I think it came out when I was like 8 or something like that. I forget when it came out.
So you weren't the one that made that decision to walk out.
It was part. Oh, I was 5 when it came out. It was half me going, the monkey's not doing anything fun, and half my grandma going, I hate this, we're leaving.
Yeah.
I can see your grandma doing that.
Oh, she,
Okay,
yes,
that's-
absolutely.
Writing Congo on the list for us to do at some point.
Okay, please, because I'd love for it to have a redemption, but I was like, the monkey's not being fun.
Because, I mean, that wasn't a kid's movie. What was your...
Taking a 5-year-old?
That wasn't even a kid's movie. Like, that's not... I mean, a white ape literally throws a head or a brain at people.
I was a mature 5-year-old, I guess. Have you seen the movie Buddy? They're recommending that in chat.
Buddy, I'll have to look that one up. I'm going to write that down.
It's with Rene Russo and Robbie Coltrane and Alan Cummings.
Oh.
It's based on a true story. It's about a philanthropist raising a gorilla and chimps as part of the family.
Oh, that's kind of cool, though.
Yeah.
Depending on how that is set, I might like that. Depending. Because
I'm picturing...
not a big...
Go ahead.
Because I'm not a big fan of... The reason why is the majority of time, whenever a monkey's in a movie, it's used for comedic effect. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why, but I don't find it funny.
Not even in Jay and Silent Bob?
I did like that one, actually.
I honestly don't even remember like how much that monkey was actually in it. I can't remember at the moment.
I think he was billed in between Kevin Smith and Jay Muse, I think. That much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he got arrogant and refused to come back for reboot.
What a jerk! Really,
I'm not. I'm really not surprised.
They got Matt Damon and Affleck, but the monkey's like, eh.
I can't believe they got them back. By the way, love that movie.
Okay, so I want to dig into the monsters. I want to dig into the different monsters that they brought up. So, Mothra.
Yes. The only
Feelings on Mothra.
The only one that I had heard of.
The only one you'd heard of?
The only one
This
that
doesn't surprise me.
The only one I knew by name. I had seen
Gotcha.
some of the other ones. I didn't know them by name, but I knew Mothra.
Do you know Mothra's theme song?
No.
I'm sending you Mothra's theme song right after this.
We'll talk about theme songs then. Trust me.
Okay, good.
Okay, so what did you guys? Okay, so the one thing that I always like about Mothra is the fact that like Mothra being the queen of monsters, like that's a thing throughout all the movies. Mm-hmm. Is that like she doesn't die, like she never really dies. Like that species animal character has a complicated life cycle to where like even in all of the other movies that they've ever had Mothra in, like that dies but then comes back later on within the same like universal storyline that they're going with in the movies. So I feel that in the credits in this where they go through all the news articles, towards the end they talk about an egg, like this mysterious egg, or could it be something else? Yeah. I believe this is one of my several things. I believe that is Mothra.
I would love that. I want more Mothra because I love Mothra.
And the only way that I would be okay with it not being being that is if this MonsterVerse is only like 6 movies, and we're like 2 movies away from this thing being done.
Do you think it's going to be more than like these 3 movies or 4 movies?
I'm hoping it's 12. I am hoping that we get as many Godzilla modern MonsterVerse films as as we did what I call Chapter 1 of the Marvel movies, which is the whole Thanos thing. Like, I want that many MonsterVerse
The Infinity
movies.
Saga.
Yeah, the Infinity Saga. Thank you.
Well, the main reason I don't think you're going to get as many as quickly is your main characters are CG and big budget CG.
Oh yeah.
So, so one Godzilla is equal to like 2 Robert Downey Jr.'s.
You know something. If it takes 30 years to get there, it takes 30 years to get there. I'm okay with that.
I think my problem with it is like, how do you go up from this movie? Like, I wonder if the Godzilla versus Kong is going to be a bit of a letdown because it's just 2 big monsters fighting. Like,
Okay.
I'm not going to get Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah in the same city fighting again.
I gotcha.
Here's the thing.
I
I don't think it's going to be just the 2.
No?
No.
Here. Okay, so this
Well,
gets into my.
Yeah.
This is a great segue.
Do we want to get into our thoughts about Godzilla versus King Kong?
I have got stuff written down here that I want to go over. That's good. This is going to be good. So, based off what we know from this movie that we just watched, okay? 1, the eco-terrorists have one of the heads from King, and I always screw up his name.
Ghidorah.
Ghidorah, thank you.
Yeah.
He has one of the heads from King Ghidorah. He has a Ghidorah head, meaning there is a possibility of Perdian. I forget it's Perdition. He is a genetically made, or she is a genetically made monster from human, plant, and Godzilla DNA. Which in this whole MonsterVerse thing, they could easily do Ghidorah DNA instead of Godzilla and create a hybrid monster to fight. So that's one monster that could be introduced in this. Second, there's also Destroya, which is the only Godzilla villain to actually, I believe, like basically kill Godzilla. It's basically Godzilla on steroids with wings. I'm probably messing up the name, so if anybody in chat can like phonetically spell it, so these guys,
Yeah.
But it was created partly by the Oxygen Destroyer
Oh,
in
interesting.
the older movies, and they used an oxygen destroyer in the ocean to kill both of them. So,
Okay.
so already there's 2 monsters there that can come up with this.
I'm glad you
true.
brought up the Oxygen Destroyer, because that brought something up for me that I haven't thought about in a long time. And it's that Matrix game that took place during Reloaded. Enter the Matrix. Because in that game, you have to go through a nuclear power plant, and they give you a gun that just sucks all the oxygen out of the area, and you just suffocate all of the guards at this nuclear power plant. So I would
That's
put in
so
the cheat
weird.
code so I had infinite ammo, and I would just go around shooting that thing.
What a weird gun. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So there's a possible of 2 standalone movie villains for Godzilla and Mothra to go after. Plus, you've got the mammoth, you've got the spider, you've got the Muto, which I really couldn't care less if I ever saw that thing again. And then you've got Rodan, the living Zord. The
Fire pterodactyl that was in this one.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you've got that. So I mean, you've got enough monsters here for 3 or 4 standalone movies ahead.
Well,
So
I guess that gets us to the question of, like, chat brings up a good question. You've got King Kong, who is natural, versus Godzilla, who's natural but also atomic. And they ask if maybe Kong's growth is a result of nuclear fallout, which I think is a possibility. I also think he is just a toddler in Skull Island. So, who do you think will win, Godzilla versus King Kong?
they're going to fight, and then their fight's going to get interrupted.
You think so?
And a third monster is going to peer its ugly head from the ocean, a volcano, something. The whole hull, a lab. I don't believe the time difference between when this movie takes place and when this next one is going to take place for either a genetically engineered Ghidorah to show up. I don't believe there's enough time for a oxygen destroyer affected thing to appear out of the ocean. It's going to be something else, and there are a lot of Godzilla villains. Plus, there's a whole aspect to this Godzilla universe that's been created for the past 80 years that they haven't touched on yet, except for Ghidorah.
The alien thing?
The alien thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that Ghidorah has several different backstories, that it was an experiment made by an alien race that fell upon Earth, that it was genetically engineered. Well, there's a ton of different backstories on it. I'm going to get them all confused and cross, so I'm not going to read through them. But yeah.
So here's my. But Ryan, you didn't answer the question. In their battle, because there is going to be a fight between Godzilla and King Kong.
Yeah.
Who do you think is going to come out on top between the two of them before they get interrupted, like you think they are?
There's not going to be a time for either one to get a hand up on the other. It's just going to be an even bout fight, and then they're going to get interrupted. That's what I'm telling you. That's my answer.
Okay, Devon, who do you think's who's going to be winning that fight?
Okay, here. I want Godzilla to win the fight because I squeal like a little child whenever I hear Godzilla roar, still as a 31-year-old. I love Godzilla so freaking much, but they're going to make Kong win it just to show that Kong is just as strong as Godzilla because the movie needs it.
See, and this is why, to me, having them just duke it out evenly without a clear winner is enough to prove that to me.
Here's what I think is going to happen. I think Godzilla is going to have Kong cornered with about to fire his nuclear breath on him, and then Kong's going to say, "Save Martha!" And then Godzilla's going to be like, "Wait, what? Why'd you say that name?"
And then they get interrupted by World War II era John C. Reilly just trying to get to a Cubs game.
Yeah. Now, if you were to ask me who would win in a stand-up fight between the two,
yes,
I can tell you exactly who would win.
Who?
Godzilla, hands down. I'm sorry, but a nuclear-powered dinosaur kills a giant ape 100 out of 100 times.
But I mean, what if the ape, to Chat's point, what if the ape is a result of not nuclear power but something else? Like if Vietnam comes to Skull Island, what if he's the result of Agent Orange interference in the atmosphere or something like that?
Well, okay, so what if Vietnam comes to... Okay, so they do a lot of crap to the island with Vietnam-era weaponry when they're there before King Kong shows his face. But they do show his parents' skeleton.
Oh.
And they are freaking massive.
Chat does bring up the point. From the trailers, they reveal that Kong has an axe.
Kong has an axe?
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. He's a monkey.
Wow. I mean, yeah, they're allowed to use tools.
I mean, they've actually got... Some monkeys have gotten into the Stone Age now. They are building tools, which is terrifying.
Lord, that means Planet of the Apes is happening. We're in the middle of it, guys.
Stop.
Ryan loves it.
I'm sorry, but the lure of the original Planet of the Apes is what I like. Mm-hmm. I cannot stand the new lure of Planet of the Apes.
So you like the time travel Caesar instead of Caesar in the lab?
Partly, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because they made several of those movies, and one of the last ones had to do with how the human apes took over, and they were time traveling. Yeah, so he time travels back and whatever, but they were genetically engineered to be helpers, and then they took over.
The way that franchise actually works is they're all valid, so. All of that still happens in the future, but it creates an alternate timeline that it's weird. So those movies that you're talking about still happen, but the Andy Serkis movies are the original origin of that, And then when you get into Charlton Heston and all that, it deviates and creates this alternate timeline that you know.
I
I'm
love.
gonna pull out my trump card on why I hate these movies, because I mean, I listed the actual reasons why I don't like the new ones, and this is my biggest one.
Yeah.
I hate the animation in it. They do not look like real monkeys. It takes me right out. I feel like I'm watching a Smurfs movie.
Fair. I can't argue with that. I mean, it's fine animation. It's not the best.
It's fine for its time. It's fine for its time.
I mean, for what they're doing with it being motion capture and actual actors doing it, I think it's fantastic. I think they do a great job of storytelling as well. Take or leave the animation, the fact that you're just getting an actor's full performance in that role,
which is
fascinating.
Great,
to me.
Which is great, and it's amazing. I have a problem with monkeys to begin with.
What are your thoughts on the Mark Wahlberg Planet of the Apes?
I actually like that one.
Oh,
okay, we're done.
I'm sorry. I would rather a human in a suit, in a puppet suit, and you can tell it's a puppet suit. I would much rather that than a CGI animal.
So okay. I'm gonna try to do what I usually do with Devon with you on this.
I get to watch this time. Great.
So you don't have to like the movies. That's fine. I think they are important for what they are doing for animation, with Andy Serkis and his studio doing the motion capture. It's kind of like Jar Jar Binks. You might not like Jar Jar Binks, but if it wasn't for Jar Jar Binks, you wouldn't have Ultron. You wouldn't have these Planet of the Apes movies. It's just building the technology. The movies are a pedestal for this technology and this studio to do their work. And that's what they're there for. You don't have to like them. I think it's a solid trilogy. I think Matt Reeves is a great director. And I think they do a good job of telling a human story with the ape stories in each one of them. The third one wasn't the greatest, but they're mostly there for the technology and the progress that it's making for films in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think for that to work, I want to see what they do with it.
So,
give me the next thing, and then I'll be okay with it.
Okay, so my entire thing here is that I don't like it. I am perfectly fine with anybody else liking it. It can be your favorite movie. That's great. Enjoy it as much as you want.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that it's horrible or nobody should watch it or anything. Mm-hmm. It's just I can't get around where they went, how it looks. I just can't.
That's fair. I mean,
I totally get the advancement in technology and what they did with it and how it helped other franchises and films. It's just, it doesn't appeal to me.
Okay.
And that's it.
Well, how did it look? How did the CG stuff look in this movie to you? And the reason I say that is because I actually had a second with this movie where I went, damn, that's really good. It was actually two. The first one was that they showed Godzilla emoting, and I don't think I've ever really seen Godzilla have an emotion, but you can tell when Godzilla's tired, tell when Godzilla's frustrated, and I love that. And the other thing I loved was in the rain scene, he was laying on his side, and you saw sheets of rain coming off of him because it wouldn't be a little drop. He's so freaking big, and I was that attention to detail for scope and that attention to detail for emotion in a CGI thing is what I'm here for. If I can get this Godzilla emoting like that in every other movie, I'm here for all of them.
Yeah, and that, I mean, it's a lot easier for me to take CGI on this scale when it comes to fictional monsters with how big they are. It's harder to mess up, I'd say.
Yeah.
It would seem like. So I especially the scene where he's in the temple, which I want to get into the whole temple and the whole Atlantis thing. The look on his face, like he's tired, he's worn out, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" Like he's, like that look of confusion on his face, and he's like, "I'm just too tired to deal with you. What are you doing here?"
Right.
And then boom.
Like you could put words in his mouth, and he's just he's a non-verbal except for Aurora CGI character.
Especially they even did it with complete body language when they're in the like underground bunker and they show him like flashing in the ocean. I love that scene. But yeah, Alan, did you have a favorite CGI moment in this?
The moment where Godzilla's swimming towards them and like the flashes keep getting him closer, I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
There was one moment when he was fighting the Hydra thing in the water that it looked really rubbery, like CGI, and that kind of took me out of it. But other than that, I think it's great.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it would benefit from the big screen, but you're talking to somebody who's going to watch Godzilla vs King Kong on HBO Max on their TV. So.
Okay, so if you guys don't mind, Atlantis,
Yes.
get into that whole thing. Okay, so what do you think the backstory is there?
I think we're gonna get into it in Kong, because like in the flashes of the newspaper, they were like, "There's a whole subterranean civilization going on that we didn't know about."
The whole hollow Earth, which you know how the one guy was talking about the whole hollow Earth theory, and like it's like this guy was right. He was talking about hollow Earth. I knew he was right. He's talking about John Goodman's character from Kong Skull Island.
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta watch him.
So it's the whole Earth that's like the whole hollow Earth theory is that there are Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
They take the Oonga Boonga or whatever they call it down through like the tunnels into like through the planet. Sorry, I'm laughing because of Alan's reaction. Whatever it's called, I don't know.
It's perfect.
It's a really weird.
I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So they use that, and they go through the tunnels through Naboo to get to where they need to go. It's the same. It's Earth. It's the same thing. It's the same.
Got it. It's got the tunnels underneath.
Yeah. So
Boonga.
whatever it's called, it's something along those lines.
George Lucas. Oonga Boonga.
See, you tell me that does not sound like the exact words they use to use for that fish-tailed thing.
There's always a bigger fish.
Always a bigger fish. So they mention, I think they mention the Greeks, and they mention the Romans, the Greeks, and I think Japanese or Chinese, and I can't remember which architecture they were referring to. But if you look at the ruins, like it's a mishmash of like everything.
Yeah.
Now here's my question. Do you believe that was at one time higher on the surface and it sunk? Or do you feel that it was developed at a time when the oceans were lower?
I would say oceans were lower.
Because that thing was a legit city.
Yeah.
Yeah, that almost makes more sense to me as the oceans being lower and then them raising throughout the years. Because, you saw like cave paintings and like these actual actual murals on the wall, and like they weren't like ancient scuba diving to do that. Like they had to have been above the surface somehow.
Yeah, because like those were buildings, those were steps, those were windows.
Yeah. So if you look at the world we live in now, there are cities that are eroding to the water because they're so close to the coastlines. Like you look at Venice or even New York and places, like it's
starting to get bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so my thing on it's because of where the submarine was, and they said that they traveled 600 feet when they got caught in that, in the vortex, and they went in. I think it was a combination of both.
Oh, interesting.
Because of the temple that's in the center of it, where Godzilla ended up resting, I feel Like that was probably at one point like the highest point on the surface of the planet where the radiation was the highest, and that's where Godzilla would always go. Hence the huge opening and all of the murals and everything towards him. I feel like that's where, like the original gods, they kept on saying, like the first gods or whatever. Like I feel like that was like, the city that worshipped Godzilla to a point, because that whole thing that submarine was like going down, if you really look at it, it looks like a giant hallway built for him. And it would make sense that he would always go back there since it was a place that he'd always been. And then they just nuke it. One of the that's worse than the burning of the library of Alexandria.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the necessity, but like they lost all of that now.
Yeah, like it's like poof. It's all gone. Hopefully there's something on Skull Island that kind of makes up for it, which there kind of is, but I want you to see the movie first before I get into any of that.
Well, I mean, the newspaper clippings at the end talk about a whole underground city under Skull Island, and like other monsters are coming from that, which, I mean, now I gotta watch Skull Island.
Yeah, and it's good. So a few of the little throwaway things I found out when I was researching stuff for this, the little bit I was able to do, I found 4 different sources that cited nicknames for King
Ghidorah?
Ghidorah, thank you. I look at the word and my brain just glitches and I can't figure it out.
No, I totally get that.
I found like 12 different nicknames for him that they've used in all of the different movies that he's been in. And I found my favorite, Death Song of the Three Storms.
Oh, that's neat.
That is probably the coolest name for a monster I've ever read.
It's very like poetic.
It is.
Say it one more time for me.
Death Song of the Three Storms.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
I'm on board.
I absolutely chills.
That sounds like a metal
chills.
band.
I love it. It does. Like that sounds like something that like Dragon Force. It'd be a Dragon Force song. So one other thing that I noticed. So at the end of the movie, Godzilla's standing there after he defeats, the alien 3-headed Hydra thing, and all of the other Titans come around, and Rodan comes down.
Yeah.
And Godzilla snarls at him because he was fighting Mothra, and it like cowers its head under like its wings a little bit, and I wrote down Godzilla and Rodan equals Megatron and Starscream.
Good. I'm glad that was it.
Because I mean that like it just makes sense, like I could see that. And then my last note, and I wanted to save this for like close to last because I think we're about to wrap things up a little bit. The monster I believe that's going to make an appearance in this, and it's going to be like a 1 to 1,000,000 shot odds that this is going to happen, because like I said, it's not enough time for a genetic experiment. It's not enough time for the oxygen destroyer to make a super monster. I believe it's going to be Mega Godzilla.
Mega Godzilla?
The robot Godzilla that we make.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? Like, what makes you think that?
The internet.
Oh, no.
No. I think it's been a rumor for a while. But no, I think it makes sense. To have, so from what I understand from the trailers, Godzilla's like acting weird and like they have to fight him, so that's why they bring in Kong. I think I think in this world it would make sense for them to build a robotic Godzilla and then have it be hijacked by the terrorists, and then Godzilla and Kong have to fight that.
That would be fun.
Okay, so as soon as you said that Godzilla's like acting weird, that's kind of the plot to Godzilla 2000. Like Godzilla starts going around and randomly destroying like power stations and power hubs and power plants for no reason, for what they can think of. for what the world government can think of. Like, he's just going into random cities and just destroying this power plant and that power plant, and they're trying to stop him. And it turns out that the monster he's going to fight feeds off electricity. So he knew it was coming, and he was trying to destroy all the power sources before it got there.
That's kind of cool.
So take what I say with a grain of salt, because I watched the trailer once and was like, I'm going to watch this, so I'm not going to actually watch the trailer again. So
I purposely didn't watch a trailer for the movie. I know that there will be 2 characters in it. One will be Godzilla, one will be King Kong.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was one of those things, like, you said that and I got that flash. So I wonder if maybe that's what they're going to be bringing up in this.
That'd be cool.
Which I mean, it would be interesting because they show them fighting in the ocean or in a bay because there's battleships. Like, that's all I know from the trailer. So it would be interesting if they're fighting by the water. And in Godzilla 2000, the thing comes from the water. This flying saucer-looking thing that eventually turns into, like, a weird creature. Because when you do stuff like this, pretty much every director is always stuck with the monsters. They introduce their own, but they all still fit the same narrative.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I'm just really hoping they stay away from, like, the whole alien aspect to Godzilla, because I feel like in this modern storytelling of it, as soon as you get into, like, aliens creating these monsters and bringing them down, like, I'm fine with these creatures coming from outer space on their own, from their own species, whatever, like space creatures. I'm fine with that. I just don't want it to be another humanoid race sending them down.
Right. I mean, that makes sense, though.
Because that's a plot point in some of the movies. So.
Yeah, I'm with you there, though.
Yeah. So I'm happy that you guys both enjoyed it. I can't wait for this new one. And I've been wanting to do this one for a long time. So I'm happy that we could do it now with this new movie coming out. So
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we're still working out the details on when we're going to review Godzilla vs Kong. Hopefully by the end of the week, I think we'll be able to do that. So I'm looking forward to that.
Me too.
But that'll be a bonus episode. Next Tuesday, it is Devon's pick for a movie for us to watch. Devon, what do you got in line for us?
All right, so the new Mortal Kombat movie is coming out soon.
Oh, geez.
Have you seen the original Mortal Kombat movie, Alan?
No, I have not.
Guess what we're watching?
Welcome to Alan has to watch this 2 weeks in a row.
I don't even want to say anything about this movie. This is what we're watching.
Okay.
I'm so happy.
Good.
Did you guys get a deal with HBO Max that we're sponsored now or something?
I wish.
Okay. So yeah, so it'll be the first Mortal Kombat with Raul Julia.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh boy.
Not
With
Annihilation.
Okay.
With Highlander.
With Highlander. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So that'll be next week. So make sure to tune in for that. You can find out more about our streams if you like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. You can also listen to our podcast wherever major podcasts are found. You can watch our streams on Twitch. If you're watching us on Twitch, make sure to hit that follow button. We would love to get to 50 followers by the end of May. There, that's a goal.
That'd be cool.
And don't forget, on April 10th, you can come out to see us at the Main Street Comic-Con in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. Details for that are in the chat. Until next time for You Have to Watch This Podcast, I'm Alan.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Devon.
And we're all going to have to do our best Godzilla roar now. You ready?
Oh, no, I can't.
I can't. I seriously can't.
Do it.
That just sounded like a whale. I'm sorry.
That was my favorite.